enough from me. We're gonna have the games do our talking.
So here we are, the grinds table. Let me make sure I get my logos. Holy shit, hit that like button, goddamn.
Hey, man, I'm sorry.
All right, no, we're at the grinds table. Sirens are off. Everybody was yelling.
Super exciting.
So now we're going to talk about the power and booster.
Yes.
Okay.
The rumors are true.
The power.
Oh, Link came on. He saw the grinds table. He heard the sirens. We called him Link. All right. So we're going to talk about no more about Microsoft spending money because, everybody gets excited, even though it doesn't amount to hill of beans or hill of games. So let's talk about this thing. This new thing called the IGN Next Gen Console Watch. I think it's a silly name, but this is what they do. So this guy from Control came in and single-handedly bitch slapped the Series S and the tools. So here he is, our good friend, I don't even know his name, but he came in and bitch slapped everybody. He was from the Control dev, and here he is. I'm going to call him Fred. Here's Fred. Let's see what Fred had to say. McCaffrey, I'm going to tell you another little thing, Grindhouse. Hit that like button. He came in, and McCaffrey looked stunned as to the response that this guy said after he asked the question. But let's hear what he had to say.
Need to have these. We're just...
Where did Ryan ask him the question? Right? Did I have it set up here? Ryan asked him right here. So this is the thing that triggered everybody over the weekend. Let me get that video.
So we shipped Control.
Wait, I had it there and I lost it. Let's see.
The finances won't really work that way, right? So it's never a question.
There it is.
Like performance or.
There it is.
It's with Control.
There we go. Found it.
What you're talking about. The last question we have for you. I'm just kind of curious. In your experience, in Remedy's experience with Control. Were there any kind of major differences between developing Control for PS5 versus developing it for Series X? And really kind of, I'd throw the Series S in there too, because that's, certainly a wild card in the sense that there isn't a comparable thing on the Sony side for that. So I'd just be curious if you could speak to quickly speak to the differences, if any, between the two platforms.
Oh, of course there's differences, and I talk a lot with the engineers and many team members about. I mean, ultimately both machines are great. They're really well built, and like I said, it's early days, so there's still a lot of just system level issues and bugs that impact performance or cause crashes and things like that. It's just that's all gonna get better. Sony kind of stuck to what worked, and their sort of development software and tools were pretty stable and good pretty early on. And this is one of the things that people don't really see. All of these impact the performance that the consumer gets. And Microsoft opted to change quite a lot of things, which on the long run are probably good. But of course, it's just a bigger hurdle for us devs early on to kind of we got to rewrite a bunch of different things to really take advantage of specific features. And that's not that's not a huge negative or anything. It's just what software development is like. But maybe that explains other things. There's all this discussion about teraflops, this and that. I'm just man, it's just numbers. Ultimately, the tools and everything just matters so much more, and how all of that is brought together matters so much more than just purely the numbers.
Right.
And then Series S, well, it's it's no different from the previous generations where the system with the lowest specs does end up dictating a few of the things that you're going to do, because you're going to have to run on that system, right?
Yeah.
And it's very easy to say that, well, you just lower your resolution and texture quality and off you go. It's just nowhere near that simple. It sounds good when you say it, and every engine is built in a different way. It's another thing when gamers might be these idiots, like this game engine like does all of these things. Well, it depends on, are you making like an engine that's much more about GPU bound or CPU bound? Like which are you taxing a whole lot more? Well, we kind of tax kind of both because we have a lot of physics, but then we have a lot of the ray tracing effects. But then that makes a huge difference, especially on Series S. So it's a lot more difficult to engineer an old game to make sure it works on everything. But now that we're building the future games, and hey, we know these are the system it has to run, we take that into account from day one, and we can ensure that all platforms have
by targeting the lowest system
experience as possible.
Let's see McCaffrey's face.
That's what needs to happen. And we appreciate that there's a lower barrier of entry for next gen experience, but like the more hardware you have, the more you kind of have to ultimately compromise a little bit when you are like a smaller studio like us, where we just can't.
Oh, did he just say compromise because of the more hardware?
Spend so much time making sure that all these platforms are like super good. Of course we need to do that, but there's just a difference in doing that, because it takes a huge amount of resources, not just engineering but QA. It's a huge QA overhead to test so many different games. Like, I don't envy folks making Halo Infinite that has to ship on so many platforms. Like, they have the resources and money, but man, that stuff, like, it's super tough to.
Joined by Ryan McCaffrey, host of IGN's Xbox podcast.
Wait, I hit the wrong button.
The more you, like, they have the resources and money, but man, that stuff, like, it's super tough to ensure everything works great. But like I said, when I talk to our engineers and designers, like, it's like the systems are solid, like, especially considering
solid
like,
systems,
how difficult
but you
last year
gotta.
was.
This dude, where's Ryan McCaffrey's face? Here he is.
Into game development.
Stunned.
Super fascinating. I
Stunned.
keep the conversation going for a lot longer, but unfortunately we're running out of time. But thank you so much for stopping.
Where's my? I don't have my humana. Dude. Okay, so we heard the bitch slap across the world, and
When I think about Xbox,
Oh, Phil.
I think about quality games. We have work to do there. We haven't done our best work over the last
Phil.
few years.
Hey, Phil, thank you. Yes, you haven't done the best work over the last few years. So this guy said a lot of stuff. Now they're at the grinds table. Oh, man. Ryan McCaffrey stunned. He's like, you just made fun of my booster. He's like, booster! Yeah, so anyway, so he said a couple of things. First was the whole existence of the tools, and the fact that Microsoft did something where they changed a lot of stuff with the Xbox Series X and S, and Sony kind of stuck to what worked. So, and I think we're seeing that with a lot of these multi-platform games, and I think that kind of addresses some of the questions as to why the PlayStation 5 seems to be performing better in certain games, in majority of the games, where the Xbox seems to have these glitches, these stutters, these bugs, these things, because Microsoft changed the internals. The one question I just want to the one thought I just want to leave with you guys too, is that it's pretty interesting that Microsoft changed so much when for us, it looks like they didn't change anything regarding the dashboard, the feature set, all that stuff was the same, but they changed a lot of stuff on the back end, and it didn't help developers, but who did it help? Because Sony changed the dashboard for us, changed the operating, the technology, the things, and kept to what worked for the devs. And one thing I will leave you with before I get you guys' input is that the first thing that Cerny said, we went around to developers and listened to them. In his snore fest of his show, he said that we went out to developers and see what they want. Where Phil is like, we need to move games. Like, Microsoft is I think building that system for what their future is, and the devs need to come along. And that kind of goes into the last conversation we had, where Microsoft seems to always have a problem bringing on the devs to follow their vision and not give the stuff for the devs to make the devs' vision. Instead, their vision needs to match Microsoft's vision. And that's why they don't jump on board. So what do you think about that whole thing with the tools and all that stuff being ready?
Well,
not ready, I guess, for them.
Well,
Basically not ready.
They're not ready.
yeah, I've heard these things and stuff, but you see how he kind of chuckled whenever he started talking about the Series S.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
so
that's the next topic. Just talk about that. We'll go get into that one. But what about the whole with the tools, like the performance, where Sony stuck to what worked,
well,
and Microsoft changed stuff?
It seems that Microsoft, which if I'm correct, they went to what they call as GDK.
Yeah, the GDK.
Which is supposed to be a development environment that you can scale between all the way from the Xbox One S to PC to the Series S, Series X. So when you're trying to optimize, they're trying to make it easier for developers to optimize their games to put on all these different platforms.
Yeah, and that was the last thing you said, yeah.
But it doesn't seem as though it's hampering the performance in these games. So obviously there's some issues here.
Yeah. Frog, what do you think?
Yeah.
About the tools.
Personally, I was going to say I personally think that and I've always said this. I thought that when Microsoft decided to have two consoles, I think that they were so far in the plans of having, this Series S to just sell quickly and get people to next gen, and they shouldn't have did that. I think that the X should have been the standard, and if they were going to do something, do it just as constant, kind of like Sony did. I think that they made the wrong mistake by having an S, because I think that it does hold back some things for them, particularly. And I think that it's not a good look. I don't see the point of buying an S. I'll be honest with you,
there's no
Series
point.
S.
Yeah.
I think there's no point in that console. I think that and even at this point, I think that if Microsoft want to kind of like get favor backing with people, say, hey, you know what? We also have a Series X for you, and it's our $399X without a disc tray, and I think that's a route they should have went once they saw Sony out there, and I think ultimately they didn't want a lot of SKUs, but I think by them looking at Sony and saying, damn, they put the same console on there out there, one for $399 and one for $499. I think Microsoft should have at that point said, damn, we got this S. Because they, if everybody remembers, the PlayStation announced their crap way before they announced the S.
Yeah.
Microsoft should have said at that point, hey, let's not even say anything about this S, and let's just go ahead and brand another X.
It was too late.
But it was too late.
Yeah,
I was about to say
it
it was too late because they already manufactured them. Right?
Yeah.
So they had to sell them. Right. And that's what I think it ultimately hurt. I think that hurt them.
So
it's going to hurt them still.
So this is how you know that in a situation. Well, this is how you know that Game Pass is their main focus, which they've already said this. But this type of a 1S or Series S, whatever it's called, is really just a Game Pass box. It's an all digital console. It's not designed with developers in mind, because there's no way that when Microsoft, Jason Ronald or whoever met with devs and they told them about this Series S, that anyone was going to be happy with this hardware, any developer. So, you go out here and you say, oh, it's the 1440p, 120 FPS box, which that's a lie, because most of the games are running sub 1080p.
Yep.
And they're not, and it's oh, just lower the resolution. No, because you
heard what he said, right? About that?
Right, he said that.
He joked.
But
he's like, wait, I just want to say what he said. What he said.
Lower
he said that's not true.
Quality and resolution.
Like a lot of things.
Yeah, you can't do that because you see that there are games that have ray tracing on the Series X that don't have it on the Series
that
S.
too. You're
so
right.
There's obviously a hardware limitation because of the specs of this console that is just not frame rate and resolution. So clearly there's a bottleneck, or you can look at the specs on this console and tell that it's pretty weak, but it's clear that this hardware is going to hold this generation back when it comes to third-party games because no matter what third-party game comes out, it's got to run on this hardware.
Yes.
There's no way you're going to be able to release a game on the Xbox platform and it not be playable on the Series S. Microsoft's going to mandate that these games work on all of their platforms.
Well, you even hear what he said too about like he feels bad for the Halo Infinite. Like he calls out Halo Infinite just at like all those SKUs, and this is why exclusives matter. Like the fact that a Sony dev has to work on just a Sony hardware, a Microsoft dev, all those 23 studios have to work on all these consoles, all the PCs. Do they work on an Android phone, on the xCloud? Do they, like, it is stretching them real thin. And you might get a game that just needs content later because they can't fit it all in one just to make the game work. You'll get day one guns. That's why Halo has day one guns, because they can't put all the content that they want in day one. They don't have the time or resources to do it.
If you look at a game, Halo Infinite, okay, it's supposed to be this open world first person shooter. Okay?
Semi-open world. They even said that's not a full
semi-hub open world first person shooter, right? You're trying to run this game right on the OG
Xbox.
OG Xbox and scale it all the way up to the Series X and PC and everything, right? There's no way, because you still have the same skeleton. I don't care if the resolution is higher, if the texture quality is better. It still fundamentally has to be the same game. So that's a tough task to tell developers to scale your hardware from this weak, anemic OG Xbox, all the way up to the Series X. I mean, that's a lot. And PC, all the configurations of PC.
That's a huge task. Their studios. And the funny thing you said about the resolution. So this is what he says about the resolution, and I want to show you where he says that it's ignorance to just say it's resolution drop. Watch this. Ready? Hear what he says.
And it's very easy to say that, well, you just like lower your resolution and texture quality and off you go. It's just nowhere near that simple. Like, it sounds good when you say it, and every engine is built in a different way.
So hear what he said, right? Let's go to this. The primary difference between Xbox Series X. So you heard what he said, right? The primary difference between the Xbox Series X and the Series S is resolution. Through talking to our customers, we found that many of our fans prioritize frame rate over resolution, so we wanted to build a console that didn't require a 4K TV. The Xbox Series S delivers approximately 3 times the GPU of Xbox One and was designed to play games at 1440p at 60 frames per second. So the first sentence there, the primary difference between the Series X and the S is in resolution. He says that it's not that simple. It's not just resolution. It's other things. And this is from he says it sounds good on paper. This is from their wire. This is the Xbox saying this. This is not an interpretation. This is them saying this stuff. Then let's see what David Cage said. David Cage said, this is another thing that he says, we will focus on the weakest platform. Remember people going, oh no, you do the highest one and scale down. You don't do that. Shout out to Optimus Code, because you don't do that. You have to make sure this thing works on the weakest hardware. So your target is the lowest one. And look what David Cage said. He's really not a big fan of this situation. And what have we seen consistently? Well, somebody wrote something. Read that funny shit. I don't know what funny shit. Wait a second. Hold it back, last gen games. Well, David, like, we've heard general about the whole, like, devs are not really happy of the existence of the Series S. They just wanted next gen hardware to focus all. You got to remember, they make these new hardwares for the devs because the devs probably complained. That's probably why those mid-gen refreshes existed, because they're like, the shit that you give us right now, we can't make the games we want to make. And they go, well, here's more powerful console. So now you give a more powerful console, but you also go, well, here's a weak one too. And they're like, but why did you do that? I just want to focus on the higher end to make my game. Why now do I have to worry about if this works on the Series S, which is basically like a placeholder, a stopgap? Because that benefits, like what Link said, your Game Pass model. Well, I'm not putting my game in Game Pass. I want to make a next-gen game. Why do I have to make sure that it works on Booster? Nobody likes Booster. That's the point.
We got plenty of Turbo Man's
And you got all these people saying that, oh, well, it's the high end, it's not going to hold it back. And all these devs are saying that. These are developers, not me.
Right.
It's not the panel here. It's all these devs are saying
multiple devs are saying the same thing.
Yeah.
Multiple devs are saying the same thing. Look at this hardware. This hardware is weak. Yeah, it's got a similar CPU to the Series X, but the GPU and the memory bandwidth, look at the speed of that RAM in that Series S. It's terrible. So
yes, the RAM is bad. Yeah,
the RAM and it's split configuration with less RAM. It is just clear that the difference between these games, the Series S games tend to run worse on it than the Series X sometimes. Games are missing ray tracing. Even Remedy pointed out that the Series S does not have ray tracing because of the hardware, not because of their software or their engine. So it is what it is. I mean, and unfortunately, this is the hardware. I don't care if Microsoft comes out with a mid-gen refresh. If they cancel the Series S, it's out there now. So they have to still support it. And devs, third-party devs, are still going to have to make their games run on this weak hardware.
And you know what else is interesting, too? Like, people are like, well, it's great for the kids or for the second room. The thing is that if you just want a cheap Xbox, why don't you just get a Xbox One S or One X if you can find that? I think the One X for $300 is a great deal. But, like, why don't you just get that? First off, there's no true next-gen games that Microsoft has identified. Halo's not. The Medium, I guess you missed out on playing the Medium, but it's not like Microsoft had a lineup of games that you're going to miss. And anyway, if it's for your kids, are your kids playing the Medium? No. The kids want to play Minecraft, and they're going to play Fortnite and Rocket League, and all those games work. And why would you spend $300 on a 1440p machine, or I mean, a 120 frames per second screen for your kid? Like, I just don't understand it. Like, if you really are trying to save money, you would buy them the last gen console. You wouldn't buy them a halfway next gen console.
Well, first of all,
if it's for the kids, you know,
who has a
120 frame?
Right. How many games are running? Okay, first of all, most new TVs that do offer 120 FPS are not 1080p TVs. They're normally 4K televisions.
Yeah, and they're expensive TVs too.
And they're expensive televisions. They're not going to buy a Series S.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because you're not getting the full benefit of this brand new 4K TV that you just spent all this money on.
Yeah, but you'll get the frames though, right?
You'll get the frame. You're not going to get... Okay, listen. How many 1440p 120 FPS games do we have on that Series S?
There's a few, but there's a lot. I think there's about like 15 to 10
and 120.
Oh no, 14. No, not 1440p and 120. It's 1080p and 120, maybe 1080p,
900p, 720.
And know what else too? Wait, Link. I'm gonna say it's not only when you run 120. It's not only just the resolution that drops. Look at Dirt 5. They take out the fucking crowd. The crowd goes away. You're basically racing preliminaries. Yeah. The crowd goes away. There goes Phil Spencer, comes in with the lawnmower, takes away the grass. Now you're playing at 120.
Anybody who has a 120 FPS TV or monitor is not in the market for a Series S.
Exactly. But for the kids, now, what kids are playing on 120 frames per second TV? What kids? Tell me those kids. Those kids who get an X. Those people will not get an S. No. The S is an excuse for bullshit. The S should have been a discless Series X, just like the digital PlayStation, and called it a day. Instead, and anyway, I think $300 is hot. And also, they're charging $300 for this thing. Remember, everybody, they charged $500 for the One X, the most powerful console in the world, and dropped it to $300 before they got rid of it. All right? They overpriced that ass for $500. They overpriced it over a year-old tech of the PlayStation 4 Pro. It came out at $400.
How is the Series S moving gaming forward?
It's not.
It's not. I mean, it's really a... when I heard the rumors about this hardware, I was never on board with it. I thought it was a mistake, and I was really hoping that it wasn't true. But of course, it was. because this type of decision making, it has nothing to do with gaming. It has nothing to do with what devs want. It only serves Game Pass. So,
Exactly.
I mean, that's just what it is. Everything from the hardware Microsoft is making, everything serves Game Pass. So that's just
You
the
know
way they're
what
going.
would be interesting, and this is something that I realized when I was doing. I'm just gonna put my little smart comment in here, just to remind you: 120 frames per second with no crowds and a special cameo by Phil the Lawnmower Man Spencer, and so that's what you get, because it's not just resolution that drops; the crowds go home too. So I just want to put that in there to have official documentation of the crowds and Phil the Lawnmower Man Spencer.
And it's gonna get much worse when we go further.
We just started.
When we stop cross gen, when they stop all this cross generation, and they just start focusing on this next gen hardware, and these game engines are going to get more and more demanding. And on top of that, I mean, 512 gigabyte hard drive. I mean,
yeah, right. And then a $200 expansion, which I know Sony didn't do theirs, but Jesus,
right.
they only give you one option at $220.
Well, if you look at people who are complaining about Sony not offering expandable storage, there is a reason that you cannot expand the storage on the PlayStation right now. Mark Cerny said that on the road to PS5.
Yes,
they have to have M.2 SSDs that are fast enough that operate not at the same speed that the SSD that the PS5 has, but faster, because those aftermarket SSDs are not going to have the amount of channels that the internal hardware has. So it's going to run faster. So there's really maybe one or two external. I mean, there's only maybe one or two M.2 drives that even probably are going to run fast enough right now to work with the PlayStation. So these drives are just not readily available, and that's what Mark Cerny was trying to tell people.
Yeah,
we gotta wait for the hardware companies to catch up to the speed that we have. So it's not that they just don't want to turn it on; it's just that the hardware is just not available.
Exactly, and the thing is that it's still whenever they turn the switch. Yes, I would like it and all this stuff.
Right
now, because I'm impatient. But the thing is like it is still. The idea is that it's an open market for M.2 drives. You can get them from anywhere. Yeah. Whereas this is a proprietary memory card that's in a case that clips onto the back in a proprietary port with no competition, and they could charge whatever they want. And if you want an example of this, go look at not too far back, but the 360 that had the expandable hard drive that was in a custom shell. Yeah. It was $120 for like a 500 gig or 200 gig or something like that. And because it was in the proprietary connection, you could just stamp that, and it had a clip onto the top. That was their solution. So now you got a proprietary memory slot that this thing works in, and that could be whatever price they want, and you're at the mercy of inventory. And you're at the mercy of price and demand of that one type of memory card. Whereas the M.2s, and trust me, I'm sure Sony will come out with a recommended list, and I bet you other M.2 drives will work as just not to the speeds of what they are telling you. That's
and with competition from these third-party manufacturers, the prices will go down.
Exactly, like Crucial. They'll have like Samsung will have their M.2 drive, which I'm sure that'll be the recommended one, which is very expensive. I use the Crucial. I have it in my laptop right now. The M.2 drive I bought, and I could buy 2 terabytes. Spend a little more money. I could buy one. They only give you a one size option with the proprietary memory card for Xbox. There's only one. So you got to look at the big scheme of things, not just when it's available, but look at the big scheme of things and look that Sony is allowing for an open market of expandable storage that will work at the speed equivalent to this thing that you have. Well, Microsoft is using proprietary, basically, memory cards that you will be at the mercy of them. Now, maybe they'll make Western Digital make one too, and there'll be some competition. But right now, they're in bed with Seagate, and Seagate will tell you exactly what they want. And he says, Jez, they're around $180 right now. Oof. For what? A 1 terabyte?
What, the Microsoft chip?
The Microsoft ones? For 1 terabyte? I thought they were $220. Let's see.
They were the retail price was. I don't know.
They
I don't know
dropped.
if
Why
it's
would they
anymore.
drop in price? Let's see. Xbox Series X hard drive, external. What the hell are they called? What the hell are they called? External memory cards?
External hard drive. Oh no. I don't know. It's not an external. It's
Let's see. Where are they? Here it is. Let's see how much it is. Oh shit. Who's that? Who said that stuff? Oh, I think Gadget Guy was talking about the M.2 drives. Here he goes.
drive, okay.
Yeah. And Sergeant says it. Samsung 980 Pro is already at $199 for 1 terabyte. Well, here you go. Here you go, guys. Look at this. This is what proprietary cards do. Here you go. 219 MSRP for 1 terabyte card. $220. You said I already seen. You're right. The Crucial one, I saw 2 terabyte. Let's find one, right? If this one works. See, again, I don't know if it works, but like if you look, the M.2 Crucial, I think it's like $200 for a 2 terabyte. Oh, here it is, M.2s. 2 terabyte one. Let's see how much that 2 terabytes are. But again, I don't know if these will work. But it gives you an idea of the competition. Crucial. That's what it is. Crucial memory. Let me see. Where to buy. Let's go Newegg. Newegg has them in stock. Let's see. Here you go. So a 2 terabyte one. Let's see how much their 1 terabytes are. Let's see. Where to buy. And then. Yeah, so hold on. Where's that 1 terabyte? They're 2 terabytes at $233, and then the 1 terabyte is, I think, just like what's 2. Oh wow, what the hell? $232. What the hell? But I'm just saying, like, this is. Hey, what's up, Ice Cream Gaming? How you doing? Yeah, his was $240. Guapzilla said that. And Guapzilla, you're right. That's exactly what they're coming in as. They're over here. Here. Just want to make sure there's no like crazy stuff on here. Yeah, see. So this is just from Newegg. So a 2 terabyte. Not saying this is going to work on the PlayStation, but you already see if these are one of them. You're already looking at double the memory that Xbox is offering here. 1 terabyte for $219 when you could get a 2 terabyte for $233. Double your memory for just about the similar price. And this is just one of them that might work. Maybe this doesn't work. But if this is the range of what a 2 terabyte is, by the time Sony says, let's go, my $219 right now is going to buy me a 2 terabyte one. Whereas if you're on Xbox, $219 is gonna buy you a 1 terabyte one. This is where's that? That's what a proprietary memory card does. This is open market. This is proprietary. And then see, somebody just found an add data one. 1 terabyte for $200. But look, double the size. This is where I'm going. This is why I'm crucial. Man, this is what's in my. I got a 1 terabyte. I think in my laptop right now of this. Now I don't know if crucial memory is gonna work, but I'm gonna say like if you just look up 2 terabyte M.2s. I know we kind of derailed here with M.2s, but it's just like, you're looking around 200. Yeah, like, yeah, here's a Seagate one, M.2 at $200, 2 terabyte. There's a Crucial one, $224. Barracuda, let's see. Samsung is the expensive one, though. Samsung is at $329. For a 2 terabyte one. So who knows? Maybe only the Samsung ones. I don't know. But again, you have some variety. But we're talking 2 terabytes. You don't even have 2 terabyte option for this one. And what's crazy is that the 2 terabytes are in the $200 price range. Whereas Microsoft's already in the $200 price range for 1 terabyte. What happens to come out with a 2 terabyte one? That's why they're not coming out with one, because that would be like, somebody will look at that and go, what? $400? I'm not paying. That's as much as a console. So what they're gonna do is they're gonna milk a 1 terabyte for $219 because they know they can't put out a 2 terabyte one. But this is the difference between open market versus this. There's plenty of options here, and I'm sure Microsoft, like, here's a $250 for 2 terabytes. We're talking double the memory. So, anyway, that was a sidetrack of memory cards, but that's the difference with proprietary. But just trying to say, like, that's an added cost for a $500, a 500 gigabyte Xbox Series S, the booster.
Mm-hmm.
And the final point that he made too was, developing for the smallest, the least common one and multiple platforms. And again, just like somebody said, Link, you hit it on the head, in the fact that this is a Game Pass box. This is an accessibility box, a box for Game Pass, and basically that's
right.
This is what it is. And the thing is what's interesting is that this is where we see what Microsoft wants to do. And oh my god, Broken Games HD says, I had 0 issues with Microsoft buying Bethesda. Now if Microsoft buys Discord, then I got a big problem. See what I mean? People will not like Microsoft, and this is the same thing that I saw happen with GitHub and things like that. Like, people like this because of what it is. As soon as Microsoft gets their grubby hands on it, people will probably go to something else.